Hey, what is up, you guys? It is Kat, and today we dive deep into the minds and journeys of a remarkable individual shaping our world. I am thrilled to announce Trevor Blake, a visionary, serial entrepreneur, and New York Times best-selling author. Trevor is a true maverick in the world of business, having founded, managed, and successfully sold three companies since 2003, amassing a staggering combined value of over $300 million. But what sets him apart is his innovative approach, a business structure built on a model of alliances, fostering higher profitability and flexibility. Currently at the helm of three diverse companies simultaneously, Trevor's philosophy extends beyond more than mere financial success. He believes in crafting a balanced life where work seamlessly intertwines with personal passions. As an avid writer and coach and animal welfare activist, he epitomizes the idea that success isn't just about the bottom line. It's about making a positive impact while enjoying the journey. Trevor is renowned for his best-selling books, Three Simple Steps, A Map to Success in Business and Life, and Secrets to a Successful Startup, a recession-proof guide to starting, surviving, and thriving in your own venture. Wait, I'm not done yet, but wait, there's more. Trevor's wisdom has garnered him widespread recognition with features in esteemed publications like Business Insider, CNN, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. His mantra: make a positive difference in people's lives, have fun doing it, and share in all of the rewards, material and spiritual, that come naturally as a result for setting that energy in motion. Prepare to be inspired as we delve into the mind of this extraordinary entrepreneur. Welcome, Trevor Blake, to the Art of Consulting.
Thank you, Kat. That's a brilliant introduction. Yeah, I actually went to meet myself after that. Like, this guy sounds so cool.
He is. And so just to set the stage, because I think that a lot of our listeners are probably, they're just meeting you for the first time. So can you share a little bit of your story, and then we can, kind of create a conversation from there?
Happy to. It's funny because your introduction is probably how the world sees me, and I understand that, and I'm all of those things, but they're just things. How do I? So, the psychologists say there's three perceptions. There's how we see ourselves, how we think other people see us, and how other people actually see us. So I think other people, like you said, actually see me that way. How I see myself is I'm just a little kid from Liverpool, and I haven't changed, and I haven't grown up, and I never will grow up. And so I'm playing, right? I'm curious and I'm playful, and that makes me creative. And so I've chosen in my life where to be creative. So the books, that's how the books come about. That's how the movies. I don't think you mentioned movies, so I have some movies too, and businesses. With building businesses, it's just that it's not like I set out with a bag full of great talent or tools or anything. It's just that sometimes we see things that get under our skin a little bit, and then we decide, okay, I'd like to see that fixed. There's a fix out there, and there isn't a fix, and so we go about and fix it ourselves, and we become an entrepreneur by default. And oftentimes we don't know what, in fact, all the time for me, never know what I'm doing, never think that I'm talented enough, never think I've got the skills required to pull this off. But eventually we figure it out because we're really smart human beings, all human beings, really smart. And we can figure anything out and fix anything. And I became an entrepreneur that way, like fixing something. And so I enjoyed it so much, I've just kept doing it. It's funny. People love to hear the numbers. So when you say $300 million, that makes people sit up. It's close to $1 billion, actually.
Wow.
And that makes people sit up. So I'm on company number 7, and so 7 out of 7, and so you mentioned the hub model. It's a formula that I found through adversity that worked, and so I just keep plug and playing and doing the same thing, and what you end up with is a beautifully balanced life where I actually spend more time sitting out here in the sunshine under the palm trees than I do sitting in front of a computer talking to amazing people like you. So I'm all about success with balance. So if anyone wants to know more, and they go to trevorgblake.com, which is my website, it's all about success with balance. A lot of people think that it's one or the other. In order to be successful, you have to work all the hours God sends and 7 days a week. I've never believed that. I've always believed that it the magic happens when we switch off, right? So we're walking in the woods,
Mm.
great
Hmm.
idea, we're having a shower and we get an aha moment. All my companies came out of those moments, not out of me sitting in front of a computer trying to work or trying to figure it out. So getting the balance between those beautiful aha moments and then those productive times where we have to sit in front of a computer and do what we do. I think that balance is really beautiful because that leads to healthy relationships, healthy body, healthy mind, healthy life. And so that's what I'm about. I'm about
100%. I love how it's so integrated, and often we forget how, I mean, we are like all areas of our life integrate with each other, and we often forget that. And we have such delineation between work and family and personal passions, but you seem to have brought it all together. I remember one story in Three Simple Steps where you shared that you were working with a group of scientists and they were very argumentative and they couldn't figure out what a problem was. Can you share a little bit about that?
most of my life, I work with scientists who are like that, and I love scientists, and I'm one myself. I'm a physicist by education, but I don't think of myself as a scientist. I think of myself as someone who knows a little bit more about physics than the average person, and I try to use it in my life of adventure. Um, but so scientists are perfectionists typically, and they won't stop until it's perfect, and it's never perfect. Right? So they'll make something, and they'll say, "Oh, well, we need to make it bigger," and then it's, no, we need to make it smaller. Oh, we need to make it purple. Oh, actually, no, we need to make it red. And then we need to encase it in this in this bow, and bow's not appropriate. We'll put it in. They just never stop as scientists, and so my role with scientists is to say, good enough is good enough, and just get something, just fix something, get it out there. I was in uh, so I'd started my first company, and I wasn't drawing down any money for myself because I didn't have any money to draw down. So I was working 2 days a week with this company, and it was at the cutting edge of biotechnology. The company was called Scepter; it doesn't exist anymore. So I was brought in to try and help these scientists actually get something done, get something finished, like a troubleshooter, I guess. And I remember sitting in the room with them, and they spent 2 hours showing me these amazing photographs of inside the cell of what's happening with this enzyme that's switching on and switching off. It was cutting edge technology they have used to produce these. It looked like looking at the bridge on Star Trek, looking out through the window, if you like. It was absolutely stunning, and they turned to me to ask me for my professional scientific opinion of what they produced. And I'm embarrassed to say, all I could think of, and it came out of my mouth, and I wish it hadn't, I just said, "It looks very pretty." That's all I could say about that. They spent 6 years and $63 million to produce this picture.
A
And
pretty
all I could
picture.
say is, it's very pretty. What does it mean? It means nothing. But anyway, so I've worked with scientists most of my life. I absolutely love working with scientists, and so and several of my companies have been based around working with scientists who come up with a brilliant idea, but don't know how to execute that idea, which is always hard. In business, like we have a great idea, but executing it is a different thing.
100%.
And
Absolutely.
and so I've been working with scientists in that way most of my life to try and help them try to bring their vision into reality. And I do like that juxtaposition between someone who's so scientific that they see things almost microscopically,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can bring
Mm-hmm.
it into the real world as a real product. And I don't think they ever like the real product. I think they still like the microscopic view of what the product should be like, but they enjoy the fruits of their labor because I'm able to bring it into the real world. So that's been my entrepreneurial journey, has been doing that, taking other people's great ideas and inventions and figuring out how to, because everything in the universe is energy. And so their
Mm-hmm.
ideas are energy, and I kind of convert their energy into the physical form. That's what I do.
Right. And I remember in Three Simple Steps, you had mentioned that there was one time that group of scientists couldn't agree upon anything, and then you took them out onto a field trip into the
Uh,
forest.
Funny enough, so I was talking to Jess, my wife Jess. I was talking to her about that just yesterday. Um, because I would talk the shock value of doing something different, right? So yeah, exactly. So Scepter was a very that was also deceptive. It's a very traditional, structured company, hierarchical company. Everybody knew their rank and file, and their modus operandi to solve a problem was to call a meeting. And so they're all getting in the meeting room, and of course, in the meeting room, it's like you and I have, because we're doing a podcast here. We have false light, and it's false light is not very nice to be around for a particular time. So we had neon lights, and we had plastic plants, and all of this. And then outside the window was this beautiful view of nature overlooking a river, and there was an eagle at the top of a tree that had given up to lightning. So the tree just was basically bark or a trunk. And I was looking at that, and I was thinking, that's where I need to be right now, not here, listening to everybody go around the table. Everyone's saying the same thing, but in slightly different ways, and waiting till everybody gets consensus. And you know what the consensus is going to be. It's going to be to agree with the idea that the boss had when he called the meeting. And I thought, this is crazy. And there was all kinds of people at all kinds of different ranks in this room. The ones who were making the most noise were the highest ranks, and the ones who were intimidating, quiet, lower ranks, if you like. And so I just stood and said, look, we're going for a walk. And there's this shock value on people's faces. Like, what's going on? This is crazy. This is madness. This is not how you run a business. And I took them out, and this place was a very generic looking building. And then so I took them out in this concrete parking lot, and I took them through the concrete parking lot. I didn't speak. They just followed me like the Pied Piper. And I took them up to the bank overlooking this river where the eagle was. And we walked along, and I introduced a question, which was, how do we solve this? We're all fighting. There's so many ideas, but one idea has to work. How do we solve this? And there was complete silence, and there was some moaning and groaning and grumbling about the fact this is a complete waste of time, isn't it? I'm a scientist. I don't go to walk in nature. And then eventually it changed, and the energy changed, and everybody started to calm down a little bit. And everybody suddenly started to notice what was around them. So people started to talk about, I hadn't seen this before. I've come to work every single day. I'm paraphrasing for how they were thinking. I've come to work every single day for the last 5 years, and I've never, ever gone 200 yards down this way to this river. And it's beautiful. And the energy's changed, because you've got the energy of the water, and the energy of the breeze, and the energy of the trees, the energy of the eagle that's kind of looking over us and expecting us. And as we were walking along, the person who'd been the quietest in the room, in the business room, suddenly said, do you mind if I say something? And everyone stopped. It was like a towpath. Everyone stopped on the towpath. And she said, I think we should do this. And it was a stroke of genius that none of us had thought of. And she was the least ranked person. And she wasn't even qualified on the scientific side. She was in human resources. She was there just to make sure we all behaved well in a meeting. And everyone went, why didn't we think of that? That's genius. That's brilliant. And the meeting was finished. And we walked a little bit more, and we enjoyed looking at the eagle, and we turned around and we walked back. And I remember the kind of shock value that everybody had, but I used to do that on a regular basis. Like, why sit in a meeting? Let's get out of the nature, because nature is a matrix. It can connect us to what I call the cosmic glue, which is a Higgs field that links everything. We're all made of energy. When I grew up, I was told that between the atoms was empty space. We now know that's not true. It's filled with an energy, which is named after the guy that confirmed it existed, called Professor Higgs, who died a couple of weeks ago at age 86, which is a beautiful thought, because now he's in the Higgs field.
Yes.
He's in his own field. And so we were connecting. We were using nature without we having to say, let's use nature. We were using nature to connect a solution to the problem that we had. And it came out of nowhere to this one person who just happened to be the person who it came to, and we changed everything. After that, and the most beautiful thing happened, I never said a word to anybody about it, but everybody started to do their meetings outside.
Amazing.
It was beautiful. And I think if I go back in time, if I go back, I remember being in high school, and I was studying Latin, and I wasn't very good at it, and I found it incredibly boring. And our teacher left, And we got a new teacher who was young and vibrant and had energy like you, Kat. She let's do something different. And she took us outside and we sat under a tree to learn Latin. And I learned more in that one lesson than I learned in the 2 years prior that I'd been learning Latin. And that always stuck in my head. Like when we connect, everything's so much easier than when we isolate ourselves and try to solve a problem. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but that it's a beautiful story.
I totally agree. And actually after I read that book, every time I had a problem that, my partners and I couldn't solve, I would just simply take a walk. Let me meditate on it. I would go and take a walk. And I would do this actually, in fact, every Sunday morning. It was my sort of magic time that I would go into the forest. And I live right across from, like I live in, there's a river valley that's close to my house. And so I just kind of go into the ravine there, and whatever problem it is, or even if I don't have a problem, the trees will give me the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually schedule it that way. So on if anyone's interested, on my website, trevorgblake.com, there's a lot of freebies because I created this one during COVID because a lot of people were coming out of a regular way of working and then finding themselves working from home. And it's not easy.
It's very isolated.
Very
No, yeah.
stressful. Mental health can be an issue because we think, we feel guilty for having downtime. But in the corporate office, we don't feel guilty for sitting on the coffee pot or for chatting in an office with somebody about something other than work. But at home, we feel, I've got to work, I've got to work, I've got to work. And so I wrote this thing. It's a PDF. It's about 40 pages. And it's called The Practical Magic of the 5-Hour Workday. And it's not a great title. I wish I would change the title now if I went back. It's a bit, a bit kitschy, I suppose. But what I was trying to get at was it's not about just working 5 hours a day. It's about structuring a day so that you deliberately schedule during your day those walks in nature. And so you deliberately schedule an afternoon nap, which sounds kind of weird to most people, but NASA has their pilots take an afternoon nap because it improves their performance 34%. When I read that, I thought, I'm going to take naps from now on. And I do. So after lunch, I take like a 20, 30-minute nap. You never really get into a deep sleep, but you get into this twilight world where all kinds of crazy ideas pop into your head. I love it. It's like being in a lab. So I have the practical magic of the 5-hour workday. And if your audience and I never connect again, that will change everybody's life. Because understanding that scheduling the shower time, the aha moment, the nap moment, the walking in the woods moment, scheduling that as importantly as we schedule sitting in front of a computer will change everybody's life, because the magic happens when we're not in front of the computer. But then we need to go to the computer to make it reality, right? To make it work, to bring it to the world. So the balance is really important.
Totally agree. Going back to the one other thing I thought of when you had talked about the nature and how nature is a matrix, and how the lowest ranking person on the team was in fact the one to receive this brilliant idea. I would also say that because you were in nature, because you were in that natural matrix of everything, that the ego was removed from there, and I've been studying this thing called A Course in Miracles. I don't know if you've heard of it, but really one of the lessons, the primary lesson is that only love is real. Everything else is a perception problem, right? And so being out in nature, you're able to experience that love again, where we're all one, right? We're all connected, we're all one. And so because I feel like had she had thought of that in the boardroom, all of those scientists would have been dismissive, because she herself wasn't a scientist, likely. Probably wasn't qualified as a scientist, and she herself wouldn't necessarily contribute to that idea because of that ego, right? Because she didn't feel that she was good enough to contribute.
All of the above, Kat, absolutely true. And we used to live in a world of consensus, and the lone voice was considered a troublemaker, whereas today I think we live in a bit more of a square. We can talk about different energies that are moving in right now, and that's no longer the case, right? The lone voice is the genius, but in a world of consensus, there's no room for the genius. when you go out into nature, nature has this profound effect on us whereby all of a sudden, let's say I was the most highest ranked person in the meeting room. Right? I'm God in the meeting room, and I'm human, so I'll feel it. I behave like this myself many times, and I feel like I'm in charge. I'm the boss. I'm the owner. I'm the CEO, whatever title I give myself. And in that position, we tend to ignore the wisdom that's in the room. When we go into nature, I can't be the CEO of nature. I can't be.
Mm,
I can't be. I am so humble in nature. I'm so small. I can't say to that tree, I'm better than you. That tree's been there 250 years. I can't. So I can't, I feel so in nature, we feel our humility a little bit. And that's why when we were doing that's why I was trying to shock him into thinking in a different way. And that's why she felt confident because egos had disappeared. We're
yes.
all equal. So in nature, we are all equal. There's no gender, there's no ranking, there's no age. We're all equal and we're all in awe of nature.
Right.
And so when you're in that
100%.
situation, anyone can put a hand up and say, do you mind if I say something? Because no one's going to say no, because nature's going to say, don't do that. So I've spent, most of my life, if I counted the seconds in my life, probably 60-70% has been outside in nature.
Wow. 60, 70%. Most
Easily.
of your life. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here in an office building now, or not an office building, but in an office, but nature's right outside this door here. But I have no shoes on and no socks on. Right? So I live as close to nature as I can all the time. I always walk around in naked feet, no matter where I am, and that gets quite a bit of laughter when I go into companies, and I go as a troubleshooter, and they say, you need to fix this. Can you help me fix this? And it's always obvious what the problem is. It's immediate as you go through the door, you can see it. But I'll go in with bare feet, and that gets everybody's attention.
Really?
Yeah, like here comes a hippie or a new ager or something like that. What the hell does he know? But it gets everyone's attention straight away. But what I'm doing is I'm connecting to the energy of the company through my feet. So like just like we do in nature. I know this sounds woo woo, but hey, it's worked for me for all this time. So I get to feel the energy. So other people I think would use their heads or their torso wand or their heart or whatever, but I actually get the energy of things through my feet. So
Wow.
I
I
hardly
can't believe.
I hardly ever wear shoes, and if you looked at my stubby toes, you could tell a lifetime of not wearing shoes.
Wow. So, I know that you have, and listeners, if you're meeting Trevor for the first time, and so he wrote a book called Three Simple Steps. It is probably so the way I discovered you, Trevor, was that I am a listener, like a follower of Ryan Daniel Moran's capitalism.com, and he had
Yeah.
interviewed you at one point in time, and he had mentioned that of all the books you will read this year and possibly in this decade, if not more, actually, Three Simple Steps is among, if not among the top book that you should read. And so I was like, well, then how can I not pick it up? Right. So I picked it up. And I mean, truth be known, it's sat on my bookshelf for a while. Like I didn't pick it up right away and read it. And but I feel like, and I think that you had mentioned this at some point that the you do not choose the books choose you, or the book speaks to you at the moment in time that you actually require the book, right?
At the time, right? When you need it.
That's right. That's right. And so I actually it sat almost a year, embarrassingly enough, before I picked it up and read it. I was like, oh, I couldn't put it down. And so one of the things that actually attracted that's kind of sparked that attention to, as in your words, made me sit up straight, is that you didn't most a lot of founders of companies that are in our minds, like they tend to, we always think that they have to start early in life in their 20s, and then they have all this tons of time to found, the company, and sometimes it's not successful and sometimes it's wildly successful. But you see, um, you didn't do that. You started your company in your 40s. And so that spoke out to me because hey, that means I have good news, right? That I can still have a chance to start that company. And so in that book also you had and earlier on this podcast you had mentioned that actually I'm sort of I'm sort of giving you a lot of questions altogether. But you speak about the
But
hub model. So
by the way, by the way,
like
let me address that. Let me address that first one. So that I understand why people think that starting your own business and being a successful entrepreneur is a youthful thing, because that's what everyone sees on TV, right? That's you see the Facebook and Google's and all the rest of it. Even today, the average age of a first-time entrepreneur is 45 years old.
what, really?
This is this is a statistic you'll find in the SBA in America. Uh, the average age of a first-time self-made billionaire, what do you think that is?
Okay, so extrapolating from our mean entrepreneur startup at 45, I don't know, billionaire, like 50s or 60s? I have no
64.
idea. 64.
So
Oh,
that means there's a lot of time, right? So everyone's got a chance. So and okay, I'm going to ask you another question. So how many billionaires are there in the world? Self-made billionaires in the world.
self-made billionaires. Oh, gosh, like thousands and thousands. I mean, a lot of them are in China that you never hear, that never make any sort of
That we know
media
about.
headlines or anything that we know of. Oh, gosh, I don't know. I'm thinking the Forbes list, but a lot of those aren't self-made. I would say, I don't know, like 25, just to throw out a number.
25 self-made billionaires. There are 2,755 self-made billionaires,
In the
and
world or in North America or where are we
in the
talking?
world, in
In
the
the
world,
world.
and there's 7 billion people. There's a lot of room for more billionaires. A lot of room.
Huh.
And the reason I use that statistic is because I meet a lot of people who think, well, I missed my chance, right? I'm X years in age. I've been in debt all my life. I've got an idea for a company, but I'm too old to execute it. And so I have some. So at TrevorGblake.com, I have I have a course called Transformation Experience. In that course, and it's not a course that you start and finish. It's like almost like a Bible. It's like yours for life, and you go back into it, dip into it all the time. In that course, we have somebody who makes probably more comments than anybody else about how this has changed this person's life and how at one point I'd given up and now I'm having the time of my life and I'm building this amazing company. He started it at 97 years old,
You're
and
joking.
he's approaching
97.
100 now. Yeah, and he's approaching 100 now.
Oh
And
my goodness.
he comments in the comment section. He says, "I've never been happy. I've never felt younger." So it's never too late. And I honestly think we live in a time where this is the best time to start something at any age, in any way, because no one cares about age. No one cares about gender anymore. Everyone cares about what is it. And so you can
Hmm.
start something, you can LLC it, and then you can go to the world with one click of a mouse. You can engage the whole world. It's a beautiful time to reinvent yourself in any aspect of life. Um, so I have another person in the transformation experience who, and I don't know how she got 3 simple steps. She mentioned 3 simple steps. I hope she didn't find it in a dumpster, but she found 3 simple steps in Sri Lanka. I have no idea how it ended up in Sri Lanka, but she found it in Sri Lanka. And she was working in a sweatshop and working like 12-hour days, and she was 13 years old.
Oh my
And
goodness.
all she wanted to do was dance. And so in between her shifts, she would get like 15 minutes off and she would dance. And her dancing really irritated the person that owned the sweatshop. So she got fired and was ashamed and went back to her family with 3 simple steps in her hand. And she read it and she changed her thinking, nothing else. Just changed the way she thought about herself and environment and her intention for life. And she wanted to be a professional dancer. She's now in her 20s and she's with the Royal Ballet in London. And
What?
and that's just from understanding that age, gender, situation, location should never be an impediment to your dream. She got it, right? She got it. And you've read it, you got it too. You're like, oh, all right, I'm gonna do it now. And that's the difference. That's like so 3 simple steps. I wrote that. I did. I wanted to write it many years before I actually put it out there. But my issue with kind of personal development and self help was that most of the successful books are written by people who were not successful. But the book caught on because it got paid by the publisher to go on Oprah Winfrey show or something like that. So there's a kind, even though I like all those books and they provide all kinds of fantastic information, they make you feel better about the life you had. You feel better about yourself just reading those books, but they don't give you tools and techniques to get a better life. And so I wanted to change that. And so I said to myself, I could write this now. And the original 3 Simple Steps was actually called the Journey of Keezer. And Keezer is an anagram of seeker, the journey of the seeker. But I thought, well, I can't publish it because I'm not there yet. So I waited until I built my first company. So I started the company Qual Medical, QOLmedical.com. It still exists. You can check it out. Anyone can check it out. I started that in 2000 and whenever it was. And I set the intention for its success before I even knew how to build the company. And that's what I talk about in 3 Simple Steps. Like you set the end result before you start. And this is magic, right? So you crush time. And so you imagine its success before you even try to figure out how to be successful. And sure enough, 5.5 years later, I sold it for $105 million because I'd set the intention of, I, Trevor G. Blake, have sold Qual Medical for at least $100 million. And I set that intention on the day when I just came up with the idea of it, and I had no money. I had nothing. I had enough money to take my wife for dinner and try to convince her to go on this journey with me. And she did, thank God. So I reserved writing 3 Simple Steps until I could show how 3 Simple Steps worked in reality. I wanted a proof of concept, just like we have to do in business. We have to show a proof of concept to get investment these days. I was showing a proof of concept. Look, I used 3 Simple Steps. Here's how it worked out. Most people would be happy with that type of result. Now I've written about it, like this is how I did it. And so that's why I think that's honestly why for you, Kat, and other people, the 3 Simple Steps resonates because it's written in an authentic way. This is a guy who actually did that. Here's the result. It's a formula.
100%.
So you can use the same formula, and here you are, and you're interviewing me. Here you are. You've used the same formula. And kudos to you for doing that. It's fantastic.
Thank you. In terms of intention, now I know you in your book you talk about a lot about intention versus goal. So I know I won't necessarily, steal the thunder of your book, but I would surmise that not everyone can just go ahead and say, and be comfortable with themselves in saying, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to go ahead and sell it for $100 million. Like it takes a certain level of confidence in yourself, would you say, in order to set that intention?
No, I would disagree totally with you, Kat, and it's a great question. It requires a formula. Everything in the universe is made of energy, and if you know how to play with energy, you can write formulae, and follow the formulae, and it will happen anyway, regardless of how you think or what you believe or anything. So I honestly challenge people, and regularly, you probably know this, when they go into the transformation experience, I tell them, don't try to believe it. Be cynical, prove it wrong, but follow the formula. And you become a believer because the formula works, right? So it's like anything. It's like, I don't believe how this equation works, but do the equation. Here's the result. And they say, oh, so the equation works. And that's exactly what it is. It's like, it's an equation. It's an equation of learning to play with energy in a different way than we've been taught previously by parents and school and religions and all the rest of it. So all the world's energy. And so if you can understand it a little bit and figure it out, you play with it in a different way and you get different results. And it's all play. It's all fun.
Absolutely. I love how you said that because that's truly what a physicist would say, that it's all energy and it's all an equation, which is great news because that means that this equation, you can rely on it, right? Like the very idea of having a formula, I mean that works, is that you can rely on it and you don't have to rely on yourself or like the things that, and all of your insecurities and all of the lack of blah blah blah. You can simply say, look, here's the formula, here's the equation, and everything in our universe, to your point, is made up of energy, and you can I'm using this word terribly, mathematicize the ways that the universe works to attract what you would like to have in your life. And so,
Yes.
one of the things that, go ahead.
So you create it and attract it. So you have to create it first, because the hardest question for everybody, Kat, is what do I really want? Most people can't answer that question straight off. So in transformation, I have tools and techniques to help get you to the point of actually, what is it I want? So the fact that it's a formula removes from our shoulders the need to believe.
Mm.
And that's very stressful. Having to believe in something, whether it's a religion or a philosophy or even science, or believing in anything, is so stressful. That can derail us straight away. So if you have a formula that works, it works anyway, regardless of how you think, then it takes that stress off of having to believe. And I feel that was what was missing in self-help, because there's so many self-help books that are full of feel-good ideology, but you can't believe it.
Yes.
And it's stressful. It's so stressful. I don't agree with that. So I'm a scientist, I'm a physicist, so that by education. So therefore I say, okay, I can see how and why things work a certain way. So let's just follow the formula, and it takes all that pressure away, and then it becomes fun. And the most important thing is to have fun. The most important thing. And if it's not fun, don't do it. So for me, following the formula, and I'm saying this, I sound like a preacher saying this. I'm not in a pulpit. I am as flawed as anybody who's listening to this program. Right? I am as messed up. I have all the self-doubts that everybody else has. I have all the self-sabotaging habits that everybody else has. But I have the tools and techniques to get over those. And I use them myself all the time. In the transformation experience, there are, 34 tools and techniques that I've developed over the years, based upon things I've learned, but also things I've read, things I've studied. But then I've used them for me first because I needed them. And then I thought, wow, look at the results of that. I'll share that. So all the tools and techniques are not like I sat in the lab trying to figure it all out. The tools and techniques are what I use on an everyday basis.
100%. And now I use on an everyday basis as well, as we had mentioned prior to coming on air. And so having fun actually, obviously it creates joy. And joy is that energy that allows you to connect with the matrix, really. Now I'm getting kind of like existential here.
Good.